Welcome, everybody, to the Thrivestry Podcast, mastering the art of thriving at life, where we talk about creating change in our lives and in the world around us. I'm your host, JJ. This is my co-host, Gigi. Say hi, Gigi.
Hi.
And today we're going to actually change it up a little bit. We're going to go over two different articles, and we're going to do the life stuff and the we're going to do that second. And the first article we're going to talk about is how there's been some research, and it was a pretty small study, but it is fascinating, of how flowers helped improve outcomes of people in the hospital, and why you should have flowers in your home, or I'm assuming plants in general. But and then we're also going to talk about this other article that is saying how if you love your job and you're passionate, there's a good chance you're getting taken advantage of by your customers, your managers, and everything, and how we sort of default to that position. And how even if you are doing the crap jobs, like cleaning the bathrooms and doing the stuff nobody else wants to do, even if you don't like your job, people assume you are passionate about it, which is also kind of interesting on the flip side. But let's jump right into this first one. Let's see. Fresh flowers in your home can help ease anxiety, according to science. And show your flowers that are right there outside of you, Gigi. There's flowers right there for you guys watching the video. Yeah.
Hey. And they smell really nice.
The study involved 90 patients who recovered from appendectomies. Ooh. And some of them received flowers and plants in their hospital rooms, while others did not. Fascinatingly, the patients who did have flora in their rooms benefited from lower blood pressure, lower heart rates, lower ratings of pain, anxiety, and fatigue than those that were plantless. Not pantless, plantless. Although I would argue that we need to study being pantless and how that affects anxiety, heart rates, pain, fatigue. Because I don't know about you, but I like being pantless in my house.
I was just like, immediately I go to that, like, we have all these meetings online, but it's only from like your shirt up. Right? So always a part of me is like, I wonder if they have pants on today. Oh, I'm curious.
If you guys work from home, or you guys work remote or whatever, I guess it has to be from home. It'd be weird if it was in your office, but you should have like pantless Thursdays. They also reported more positive feelings and higher satisfaction with their rooms. Can you blame them? I mean, how did you find this study, and why did you find it interesting?
I don't know how I found it. Most stuff comes up on my Facebook. So that's, how I live my life is on Facebook. I'm okay to admit that. This was a fellow entrepreneur in Toronto who does, he owns a company that specializes in adult fun, and not in like a porn way, but like in a,
Not a way.
But more in like, we take ourselves too seriously, and when was the last time that you played a game, or like had some fun with your friends, or had fun at your office, or just like lighten the fuck up, basically, right? So anyway, I thought it was a really cool article because I love flowers. I will always buy myself fresh cut flowers like every 2 weeks when I do like the big grocery shop. I always buy flowers because they're so pretty, but they do make you feel good to have them around. And especially in Canada in the summer, just spending the more time that you can, like sitting in a garden or being out in nature, you always just you feel really good. And I thought it was super cool to read an article that kind of backed it up. And it's not just me loving flowers. It's like it's a legit thing.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the fun, the play aspect and the fun aspect, because we talked about that in one of the previous podcasts, where I had the Venn diagram, and I incorporated play as one of the kind of the primary things I'm looking at, in addition to strength, cardio, and skill work. Is play should be an integral part of kind of a general physical preparedness program. It can't just be a grind and all that. And I think that's so true. Is that we default to this mode of hustle and work and all these commitments and things, and then when we're exhausted and we have downtime, we tend to just tune out by just scanning social media or watching Netflix, and those aren't really play. That it's okay to have totally downtime where you can just shut your brain off, but ultimately play kind of is like the dark matter, the opposite of all the work, right? And you need to make sure you have enough time in your schedule to get all your work done, but then also to have some play. And usually that means you need to say no to some other, extra activities or extra work or whatever, so that you have that space in your life. But the plants thing is interesting. I was listening to a podcast with on Dr. Rhonda Patrick's Found My Fitness, and they talked about it was a sleep podcast, or the sleep specialist out of Stanford. And one of the things that they're looking into is artificial light in hospital rooms, and how they can basically show that, because they're in this environment that always has all the blinking, glowing lights, and they sort of turn the lights down, but it's still light. They have all this light infiltration, or what they call light contamination. And when people don't have that, they tend to get better faster. They feel better faster, and they recover faster. If we can start preventing that. And so we can start thinking about our hospital experiences and making them better. And
hospitals are not places of wellness, right? They're places of sickness to deal with, like, they specifically deal with illness and sickness. And they're not, look at hospital food, right? Like, hospital food is not good, nutritious food. It's like bottom of the barrel, let's meet your food guide with like as minimal requirements as possible kind of thing.
Cheap is better too, right? Like, how can they produce it cheaply?
Right, exactly. But they're not getting anybody actually better faster. And the thing that I was wondering about the study itself that the article was talking about, you kind of explained it, where there's these people and they got better if they had flowers in their room versus not having flowers in the room. But my first question was, is it because they have these flowers, or is it because they have people in their lives that will bring them flowers? Like, people that care enough about them to make the effort of bringing a gift and to spend the time and to, to know that they're being thought of, right? Because that's more what the flowers are about, right? So I was wondering, is it the flowers themselves that are creating this change, or is it just that they're part of a community of support, right? That the people that don't get the flowers don't have, And so what is the thing that's actually making them better?
Yeah, so that's why I'm just reading it real quick to see. I was going to see if I can click on the article here to find out if it was if they provided the flowers, or if it was family that provided the flowers. They were randomly assigned hospital rooms with or without plants. So this was cool. Yeah. So it wasn't the people bringing them flowers. Patients in the plant treatment room viewed 8 species of foliage and flowering plants during their post-operative recovery periods. Length of hospitalization. Yeah, so it does say that they were randomly assigned. Yeah, so that's fascinating. This is in the American Society for Horticultural Science. Horticultural Science. There we go. Yeah.
Good words for you today, right?
I know, man. Need to start practicing with the marbles in my mouth, like who was it, Socrates that did that? Or was it Aristotle? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it just goes back to this whole get outside, get in nature thing. I think especially if you guys end up, kind of trapped, for winter months or in the office, I wonder. I'd like to see some research around fake plants. Does that help? Or even just, your desktop and, having nature scenes. Like, I actually have all my sort of screensaver changes to these random nature scenes. So and same thing with my desktop, the background is constantly just outdoor scenes, just to kind of like, I don't know, soften up the computer experience a little bit with nature. But yeah, getting outside in nature, we know has all these health benefits. And so, but sometimes people can't get out in nature because they're recovering from a surgery. And can we incorporate that into, like I said, into the hospital experience? And thinking about our own lives, maybe it's, maybe you're allergic to flowers or certain flowers. So find out what they are and find the plants that you can have, we have a few plants in our house, but they need to be really hardy and not require a lot of attention, because my wife is taking care of plants.
That's why I use fresh cut ones, because when they die, it wasn't my fault.
Oh yeah, it's good. So you just like to watch the slow death of an innocent plant. Just torture it to death and just let it die.
Better a plant than a pet.
The slow death of a pet is sad. Yes. But yeah, I mean, and so yeah, there are vines and plants that are really easy to take care of, and now there's all kinds of like little tools and apps and things that automatically water them and stuff. So if you're really lazy, you can still get by with that stuff. But it is also fascinating that giving someone flowers when they're in the hospital is culturally just accepted. But it's just another sign of kind of the research sort of proving what people have done for a long, long time. And you think about funerals too, and that's what you do at funerals is you have all the people donate all these flowers, and obviously it's you're paying homage to the person and the family that's remembering that person, but it also, I think, might brighten the mood and make the experience a little bit more tolerable.
Well, I always wonder, there are certain like societal norms that have been happening for hundreds of years, right? Like you said, like flowers at a funeral. And I always think to myself, those things, they started and they caught on because they actually make people feel better, right? And now the cool thing is that we're able to really study and say, well, flowers at a funeral, you do it because it's the right thing to do. It's like a kind gesture that's a societal norm, but it's also scientifically proven to make you feel better, right? So all of these things, like my grandmother was staying with us for the weekend about 6 months ago. She comes regularly, but this particular thought train happened about 6 months ago. And she has this rhythm to her day, right? She wakes up and she has her tea, and then she has this and she has that, and then she has another tea at like 4:00 when everybody kind of comes home. And like as the people are coming in, they have their conversation, like their after school conversation, their after work conversation. And then everyone has dinner together, and then everyone watches the news together. And it's like you're watching the news together, not so that you can sit on a screen, but so that you can discuss current events. Like it's this very like civilized way of doing things. And the more that I was experiencing this day and like watching her go through all of these things that she does every day, and she goes for a walk and she does, and I was just sitting back and I was like, she does naturally all of these things that now we as coaches push on people, right? Like, like build your communities, take part in, like, have dinner with your family, ask about people's day, go for a walk every day, get outside every day, right? Like all of this kind of stuff that we're really like pushing on people to do is all stuff that, in the olden days, I hope she never hears this because she'll kill me. But like back then, it's the stuff that they would do because they knew that they would feel good if they did it, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's like we're so caught up in like the absent scrolling and what's on Netflix and everything like that you kind of negate or you forget about the stuff that you need to do to make yourself feel good.
Or you lose touch with your own internal feelings. Yeah. And so you're not as in tune with that. So then you don't notice that, yes, I feel so much better when I've, gone for a walk or done these things. You don't notice the benefits as much because instead you're just killing time mindlessly so that you can go to sleep and wake up and do it again the next day. Yeah, so I agree. And it's interesting you mentioned the routines thing. I was reading something recently about like the kind of, like, oh, you got to have a morning routine and why morning routines are so important. And the kind of the argument was, it's, they're like all these high performing people have all these routines, and here are the routines of high performing people. But ultimately, like it's not so much what the exact routine is. It's this, that you have a routine so that you don't have to think and you don't get decision fatigue. Right. Yeah. So you have this fixed routine where, it might be you wake up at, 4:30 in the morning because Jocko Willing told you to, and you go out and work out right away and you have your coffee and you don't check email or anything like that. But this other really successful person was saying, he's like, I wake up, have a cup of coffee, get back in bed and surf Instagram. He's like, I don't feel guilty about that. Like I like to do it. I don't care, but it's what I do. And it's my routine. So I don't have to like think about what I have to get done right away. It's like this fixed routine. And I do think that the more we can build those healthy, beneficial routines into our life, again, I was another one of my favorite coaches, Dan John, was talking about how he found this like shirt that just fit him great. It's a black collared shirt and, it travels well, doesn't wrinkle. So he bought 16 of them. And he just,
Right?
yeah. And he was talking about it in reference to shark habits, which is a great concept where, certain things have to be repeated over and over again. They take a lot of work and energy to do, but if you can find a way to do it all in one bite, like a shark, just take care of the whole thing. Instead of always trying to stress about what to pack, he went and bought all these shirts at one time, and then now he doesn't have to worry about what every time he can pack in 10 minutes, right? And he travels a lot, does these conferences. And you think about what habits can you do to just like take care of that it's never even a thought. I think another example of this would be to take something out of your house that you're struggling with, just take it off the table completely. Whether it's a bad food or alcohol or whatever, if you just take it out completely, it really makes it hard to then fall into your old habits or have to use willpower and try to resist and make decisions around that. They talk about like, what's his name? The Apple guy.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, he always wore the same thing every day. I don't think that's why he was successful, but it is one of the examples of ways that he just was like, I don't want to think about it, and did a shark habit, boom, for 20 years or whatever, he wore the same thing. As an extreme example.
Yeah, and then I always wonder, there's people that will hear something like that, like Steve Jobs, who wears the same thing every day, and then they'll go out and they'll start wearing the same thing every day. And I knew a person like this, right? And he wore the same black or white t-shirt and a pair of khaki pants every fucking day for like 7 or 8 years. And one year we actually dressed up like him for his birthday. So like 8 of us showed up wearing like his uniform. But the thing is like, he wasn't really successful. Because he wasn't doing all of the other things. It was like, oh, if I wear the same thing every day, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be a billionaire like Steve Jobs. And it's like, no. Waking up at 4:30, wearing the same thing every day, like those are not the intangibles. Those are the weird little quirky things that they've picked up that will help them and support them and make a little bit of difference. But that's not the thing. That's not the thing, the Steve Jobness,
Yeah, getting flowers every week for your house isn't going to make you happy, right? Like all of a sudden, oh, now I was depressed and now I'm happy because I have flowers delivered every week or whatever. Like, and ultimately every person's unique and every situation's unique. But the more we can kind of get everything pointing in the right direction, and if something really does make you feel better and it's something you really enjoy, then yeah. And I do think a lot of times there's this guilt around kind of spending extravagantly for something you love or doing things that are important to you that other people can kind of judge you on, or you're kind of like, oh, I don't want people to know that I'm into that. But you should do it if it makes you happy, and you should budget for things to, try to figure out ways to spend less or take things out, shark habit the things that you don't like or that are slowing you down, and then try to put that extra time and energy into things that you love. And on that note, let's talk about this other study or this other research we're talking about. Love your job. Someone may be taking advantage of you. And I love this little GIF that they created, which is a woman on her laptop, and she's left-handed mouse, which is interesting. And then there's just this hand throwing papers down next to them, and Duke University did some research around if someone is passionate about what they do, we see it much more legitimate to exploit them. And I don't think this is a big surprise. I think that this is it's nice to see that research come forward and say, okay, this is kind of it's a real thing. And so for those of you guys who are listening, you're probably involved in the gym somehow. Not just maybe you're a member, but also especially coaches and owners. And most gyms are started as a work of passion, right? They were passionate about fitness and helping people change their lives. And so they decided to start a gym. Maybe it started off part-time. Maybe they, quit their job to coach full-time or open a gym full-time. But then what we see a lot working in the industry is a lot of burnout. And we see a lot of people who are struggling to make ends meet. They're struggling to, make a career out of being a coach or make the gym successful so that they can actually have a good life balance. And I think it's because there's this internalization that they're doing it because they're passionate about it and they want to help people, so they don't charge enough, and then they're open 7 days a week and they don't take vacations. And when someone when someone needs something, they're always willing to help. And members, clients, they don't necessarily realize how much they're just asking for one little thing. But when you have 200 people all asking for one little thing all the time, and the person never saying no, they're being taken advantage of. So there's a lot of guilt, I think, around like not taking days off, or it's a holiday, not just closing the gym. Oh, we still got to be open for so many hours because people still want to come and work out, which is fine, but there's a trade-off there. If you shouldn't feel guilty about maybe just closing the gym. I know some gym owners that will actually close the gym for a week or more at a time in certain times of the year, because attendance is usually low. They need a break. Their coaches need a break. And you just tell everybody ahead of time, like, between Christmas and New Year's, we're not open. Or between, or a week in the summer, where everyone's busy with traveling and stuff too. And your regulars will learn that they'll understand. You can still provide them at home workouts and things like that, but they'll know the gym's going to be closed. And that's part of their membership, that the gym is closed for 2 weeks a year, these 2 separate times. And then that's when they can go on vacation too, not just the owner and the coaches.
So I think like this article, it's got a couple of specific careers that it kind of discusses. But definitely when we were reading through this, the entrepreneurs and the gym owners, they're the ones that come to mind, right? So I immediately thought of teachers when I was reading through this. Like in Ontario, teachers are actually extremely well paid. They have a phenomenal pension. But in the States, it's not like that, right? Because someone will always be willing to do it. Someone will always say, these kids need a teacher, these kids, right? But unfortunately, what that's led to is that you can afford to pay them less because you know that they'll do it anyway, right? And it's the same thing with the entrepreneurs. I like to call it the entrepreneurial guilt, right? Where it's this like, oh, I just want to help people. Look at this bee. Can you see him? Can you see this bee? This bumblebee?
Holy cow. Yeah, I saw it for a second.
One of the things that why we have all these flowers is to have more bees.
Oh, so, there you go.
Glad to see it's working. So anyway, but the entrepreneurial guilt is like a real legit thing. And it's when we get on the calls with people and we're like, cool, how much is your profit? And immediately it's like back up against the wall. I'm not in this to make money. I'm not here for profit. You guys are all about money. And it's like, no, that's not what this is about. This is about making sure that you can afford to continue to do this, right? Which is a lot of passionate people. Their passion kind of gets in the way of the objective success, which is like, it's great that you're passionate, but you have to be able to pay your bills. And you have to be able to take vacation with your family. And you can't, because then you're just neglecting one thing for the other, right? And the article, reading through it, like it broke my heart reading this. And I was just like, man, because I've been that person, right? I've been that person on both sides where it's like, I'm super passionate about this. So I know that I've been taken advantage of, and I know that I've been underpaid and everything. Not this specific Thrivestry Podcast, but like going to school or whatever. And we see it in academia all the time. Like people doing their masters and their PhDs are really taken advantage of because they are so passionate about what they do that there's this expectation that they work 14 hours a day and 16 hours a day just to get that PhD done to what end, right? And then on the other side, the article goes on to talk about that the reverse is true, right? So people who are exploited in their jobs are more likely to be seen as passionate about their work. So I can remember being a waitress and like cleaning the bathrooms because that's like part of your fucking job. And my fellow staff members being like, oh, you must really love this job. And I'm like, no, this is just part of our job. Like this is like part of our job description. The manager asked me to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a good job. Am I super passionate about cleaning bathrooms? No. Right? Like, but it was that, oh, you must really love doing this kind of stigma that comes around it. So it was really interesting to see that it's been proven on both sides. And then I wonder, what are the people who are not passionate or not hard workers? Like how do they see the world? Right? Like I always thought that was just how people are you're asked to do a job, like you're at work, someone says, hey, can you get this done? And you're like, yeah, for sure, I'll get it done. But what do other people, like people that are not like me, right? And you're an entrepreneur too, so I don't know, like if you'd even have any insight.
Well, it is interesting with regards to this. A lot of the sort of talk you see from these people in the entrepreneur space or the hustle space, if you will. They always are like, follow your passion, do a passionate, find your, and then just do it, and life will be great. And find a job that you would do for free, and then try to figure out how to get paid for it. And the reality is that if everybody did that, then the world wouldn't work, because there's just certain jobs that there's not enough people to be passionate about it. And you can be passionate about the quality of your work, and you can be passionate about like the way your work makes people feel. I really liked hearing about this guy who was working in hospitals as a janitor, and he saw his job as a way to make people more comfortable and have a better experience in the hospital. And so he was passionate about the result of his work, but he probably wasn't passionate about cleaning up bodily fluids and being around sick people all the time. So it's like that I think that there is this sort of dark side to working towards your passions, in that if you do end up in these positions, you're gonna end up saying yes to too much and taking on and getting taken advantage of. It was interesting. They found a bunch of studies. There was 2,400 total participants, and they had all these different parameters that they were looking at when they did this kind of overall study. And one of them was like, in one study, participants who read that an artist was strongly passionate about his job said it was more legitimate for the boss to exploit the artist than those who read that the artist wasn't passionate. The finding extended to asking for work far beyond the job description, including leaving a day at the park with the family and cleaning the office bathroom. And so there's a public perception, like it's considered more acceptable that that their boss told them and asked them to do extra things because the person, quote unquote, loved the work or whatever. And it wasn't true for things like if a person, it's very true for these, the artists and the social workers and the nurses and the teachers, compared to, it's not as fair compared to someone who's a store clerk or a bill collector. And again, so not only is it the passion people, but it's also these what are usually considered passion jobs. And I think this, we can think about this with coaches. So you guys who are coaches experience this when, the client is hanging out after class and picking your brain for all this information, and you want to help them because you're passionate, but then at the same time, you're giving away your time for free. You've probably got other things you got to do. Maybe you've been at the gym for forever. Now you're not working out as often as you'd like because you're too busy helping people. This speaks directly to my life. Was being in the gym all the time. It was hard for me to work out because I would always be coaching people. And so if I did a workout, like I would never work out with my classes because I felt too responsible for helping people. And I don't think most coaches should work out with their classes, but if even during like open gym, like people come talk to me and I just stop squatting and talk to them. And then 20 minutes goes by and I can't squat anymore because I'm all cooled off or in the middle of a Metcon, or, I put off my Metcon because I'm over there just talking to everybody and making sure that they're all taken care of. And then I run out of time. And people don't realize that they're taking advantage of you, but they are. And the same thing goes for you guys who own gyms, who have coaches working for you. It can just be expected. You're paying this coach by the hour, and then you start asking them to do all this social media posts and go to all the events and show up at these meetings unpaid and do all this extra work because you know that person loves being a coach and loves helping people. And it's just sort of accepted that it's okay to do that, but it's really not.
I think it's like a you asked for it kind of thing. Like, teachers don't make a lot of money, but like you asked for it, that's what you wanted. Like when you became a teacher, so you better just, get used to it, or that's what you asked for when you opened a gym. You think it's something like it's like that kind of mindset, eh? Like where it's like,
well, and again, that was kind of the reverse of this. They said that like the quote here is, it's scary to think that when we see someone in a bad work situation, our mind may jump to the conclusion that they must be passionate about their work. While not always factually incorrect, that this may serve to legitimize instances of mistreatment.
That's like big word number 4, right?
I know.
You had appendectomy, you had foliage, which you said wrong, by the way, and I didn't say anything.
Foliage?
And well, you said foliage.
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 Foliage. Yeah, I guess you're right.
I am right.
And then what was the
horticultural?
Horticultural.
And then this last one, legitimize. These are just
instances of mistreatment. But yeah, I think that's part of that example is people say, well, that's what you signed up for. They're trying to legitimize this like mistreatment or just an expectation, that you don't need to get paid as much and you don't need this work-life balance because you signed up for this passion project and this, you're doing it because you love it. I also think about nonprofits and things and charities and people they don't, you hear these stories about how, this nonprofit, only 20% of the proceeds go toward the actual charity or whatever. And it's like, well, that this is they still have to run it. And if they don't have some money, if they're not using some of their money to continue to grow the company, promote its mission and set up these events, then it doesn't exist. I think it's part of what goes on with government. A lot of government entities are designed to not have any money left over, not have any sort of profit, because they're providing, valuable services to society. But it's like, but that's a very short-term mindset, right? If we have if we can set up, like the one that always bothers me is the United States Postal Service, which runs at a massive deficit every year, billions of dollars. And it's not a good service. It's not easy to use. It's and the people who work there don't enjoy it. and yet the two of the most successful companies in the last 100 years are FedEx and UPS, which basically do the exact same fucking thing as the Postal Service. And those are also two of the greatest companies to work for. And it's really, it's like, that's so weird. Why are we in this situation? Well, part of it's this huge bureaucracy and, there's just really inefficiencies, but it's also set up to where they just don't charge enough. And it's, we got to make it cheap so everyone can use it. It's a public service. And yeah, I understand that, but can we create a little bit more, flexibility? So if we have a little bit of money left over, instead of it being immediately taken away to another project or another department, or just cutting costs, like, okay, now we can invest in better infrastructure. We can invest in making it better. But I think it's kind of this passion mindset, right? This service to others. Well,
this was a lot to unpack today.
Yeah, maybe the two articles in a row is a little bit much, but I'm hoping you guys got a lot out of it. But I will say the kind of the actionable items here is to separate yourself. You can be passionate about something and still make sure that you're taking care of yourself and protecting yourself from being taken advantage of, whether it's the gym life or even just your regular work life. And the way to do that is usually to create systems, where, you have set times where you're going to take time off, or you make sure that you're not giving up too much time unpaid. It's something to be aware of affecting you, but also that you're not taking advantage of other people. Like I said, if you're managing people, you're just not expecting them, or you guys as clients aren't just expecting your coach to always be available to help you out and everything. Just remember that in order for them to be a better coach or a better person, they need to make money at this. It needs to help fuel their life and make their lives better. And that's one of the reasons why this article really struck a chord with me, is because, again, I see so many gym owners struggling because they did this out of the caring mindset and out of the passion of helping people. But then they end up getting burned out. And if somebody burns out, then they don't do as good a job coaching or running the gym, and the gym may end up closing, and then it doesn't help anybody.
Yep. I work for Mad Lab. That's exactly what we do. So I have nothing to add to that other than go check out Mad Lab. right?
Yeah. If you guys haven't, you could definitely check out Mad Lab. Tell them that you found it through Thrivestry or whatever, and so they know that we're still champion. I mean, that's part of the reason why I have the moose and the chicken behind me. You can learn about that more when you sign up for Mad Lab. Yeah, and let's say Thrivestry is all about mastering the art of thriving at life, and it's not. And I want to help you guys. Like I think there's very few jobs that are as impactful or beautiful as somebody who commits their life to making other people's lives better, teaching them how to make other lives better. And so I want to make sure that you guys as gym owners and coaches are also thriving at life too, and you're not suffering while you help everybody else. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot, and say goodbye, Gigi.